Hey guys, I just watched a documentary called Ronnie Coleman, the King, and it's about his life right now. If you don't know, Ronnie Coleman is an 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, and Mr. Olympia is the most prestigious, biggest competition regarding bodybuilding in the world. These are the biggest, most monstrous, most impressive human beings you'll ever see. Before I go any further, the video I shot was pretty shaky, so to save you from suffering from that, here's some clips of Ronnie Coleman while he was in his prime. This is not from the movie, but in case you don't know who he is, it's just amazing to check out this guy's strength and size. Ronnie Coleman was the champion. He was the undisputed champion. He had amazing size. He had amazing conditioning. He was just the king. This documentary is called The King. Unfortunately, after all of that winning and the years of putting all this stress on his body, he has a lot of issues. He has back injuries, he's had hip replacements, a lot of herniated discs, and this documentary is about his life right now dealing with a lot of those injuries. If you're a fan of Ronnie Coleman, you'll enjoy this movie because it's a really interesting look at one of the greatest people in this industry of all time, and he has incredible work ethic. He seems to be a really good human being. But if you're just a casual documentary watcher or a casual lifter, this film doesn't really have a compelling storyline. We really only get glimpses of his life as is, and basically the setup of the story, or I guess the ticking time bomb, is that he has a surgery coming up, and that's how that timeline of him getting the surgery is what ties this movie together, because we start off from like a couple months out, then we're a couple weeks out, then we're a few days out, and that's not super interesting. It's just kind of sad. We do have a lot of really interesting interviews of all these other competitors like Flex Wheeler or Jay Cutler, and they give their thoughts on what Ronnie Coleman is. And this was super interesting to me to just see, like, these are people that compete with each other. They all want the same thing, but they still have this tremendous respect for Ronnie Coleman, and it's just really cool to hear them talk about it. But again, as a movie, it's just not super interesting. This feels like it's just a bunch of separate YouTube interviews about how you feel about Ronnie Coleman. And then when we get to Ronnie Coleman himself, what is the most, I guess, touching parts to watch is how he interacts with his family right now. He has 4 daughters with his current wife, and we see 2 of them on screen a lot, and he clearly loves them a lot, and this is kind of the heart of the movie. And we see it. It's a really cool look into that, but it's just not a complete story. Would I recommend this? I think overall, if you're a Ronnie Coleman fan, I would definitely check it out. It gives a lot of useful and really interesting information, a lot of behind the scenes looks. It was really fascinating for me. But I think for a casual viewer, it's not going to be interesting because there's just no real story. So Pumping Iron is hands down the greatest bodybuilding documentary ever. It's super compelling. The storylines are super interesting because we're leading up to this great big show, and there's this really just intense rivalry between these 2 very, very different people, and it's just a storyline that you could not have written better. Generation Iron is also super interesting and super compelling because we're leading up to a big show. This is just leading up to a big surgery, and there's not even a conclusion to the surgery, and it's just depressing, and yeah, it's not the same. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think if you've seen this movie, and I'll see you all next time.